Alright, this is the beginning of episode 4, I think. And what we're going to be doing in this one, we're going to be modifying and installing the passenger side battery tray. Now, I told you in the beginning that this is really, it has to be modified a little bit before it's put back in there. It's not a lot of heavy stuff to do, but you do need a 10 millimeter. You'll either need a die grinder or a saw or whatever you want to use to cut the plastic. I currently use a die grinder. That's what I found is easier for me. I'm not saying it's going to be easier for everybody, but that's what I use. And I usually clean it back up with a Scotch-Brite pad afterwards. So if you look here, there's two, I'm sorry, not 10 millimeters, 8 millimeter bolts. Two 8 millimeters you got to take out. Once those are out, push the sides in. This piece comes off. Knock that piece off. Then you're actually going to pull this out. Pull that out. Push. This will not be reused. Again, I save them because you don't ever know when you're going to need something like that. Missed again. Alright, take a grease pen if you need it, but what you're trying to do is you're going to cut out here, and you're going to cut out right here next to the support all the way down, and then cut across the bottom where it's flush. Give you an idea what that's going to look like. If you can't see it, is this right here. I think I can get the picture. Here we are. Pretty simple. To each their own, though, how they want to do it. This is what works for me. It may not be what works for you. Just get it started. Once it's through, alright, we'll cut and clean that up a little bit, and then I'll polish it up, and I'll show you the finished product here shortly. Alright, when you're cleaning and deburring these things, you see how it's a nice smooth edge, where it's jagged before. The easiest thing to do is after you grind it down, take one of these, I call them polishing pads, but it's like a gasket remover essentially, and run that across them. Doesn't really remove much material, but it does help clean up and deburr the edges. Makes it look more factory than, you know. Round your corners and stuff off. And this is just a cosmetic thing. Again, you'll never see this. But you do want to try to like it. I mean, most of the time these trucks are new, so you want it to look like it's supposed to, for sure. All right, next step is just putting it back together. I'll get it cleaned up a little bit more before we carry it back. You do not have to put that piece back in. You just got to put the snorkel back on. Excuse me. Just got to put the snorkel back on, and the rest, then you're ready to start putting it in. Before we move over to the truck, we're going to go ahead and modify one more hose. It's going to be jumping about 2 sections ahead, but while we're here modifying, might as well do it all, since it's in the same, been on the same place. Alright, it's back together, and that's the way it should look. We've actually got a bracket that's going to go in here, and that's where your Degas bottle is going to mount. I don't know if you call it Degas or Degas. I've always called it Degas, but it depends on who you call. But it's actually going to mount where this battery used to. So we're going to mount these 2 bolts into the fender well, and these 2 we actually come with the VMAC kit, which are right here. And then there's a bracket that, or tank on the brackets on the tank. And we'll put it on there. So you'll need this bolt. See if you can see this. You'll need these 2 bolts, this mount, and this one to start. Alright, before we go put the battery box back in the truck, I decided to put it in the machine, have it cleaned. While it's cleaning up, we're going to take a freshly broken tape measure today. And we're going to go ahead and fix the primary drain back hose as well. Just like the other ones, you're going to measure from the cuff here, and you're going to go 5 3/4 inches. Once you get to that 5 3/4, oh, I'm sorry, 5 3/4 from here. I lied to you. Which is somewhere right here in this bend. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. Alright. Save that for later. Open up your kit here. You'll need your hose clamps. Hose clamp on. Piece put in. Put your second hose clamp on. And see the natural bend of this hose where it's rolled up? Since it's going to go on the engine like this anyway, it's going to go underneath it. Just put it on with that bend. So just slide this on. Okay. This should face that way, towards the camera. And put the second one in. So go ahead and put your 2 hose clamps on the hose. And then this piece should point the same direction, so you can lay it down on the table or whatever you need to. It should point pretty close to the same direction. So when you put the Degas bottle back in, you're going to connect this to the bottle, and this is going to connect to the drain back of the engine. So pretty simple. Tighten everything up. I leave this one loose. This one I go ahead and tighten up, but I do leave this one loose. That way I can twist the end to get it mounted, and then I tighten it up later. Again, that's just personal choice more than it is anything. We're now going to get into installing the passenger side battery box, as well as the new Degas bottle. They come with a VMAC kit. So here's the modified box. You can see I did clean it up a little bit. Doesn't change where it goes. Still mounts. This box still mounts back in the same place. For this, you're going to need a 13 millimeter, a 10 millimeter, and blue Loctite. Okay, like I told you before, there's no reason not to use blue Loctite on every fastener that you put in, really. Unless the manual specifically says not to. As told you before, I think it's cheap insurance that'll save you some heartache if you make a mistake in the future. Alright, first thing I do is you want to take the fastener, or excuse me, the OEM fastener, and it goes in this one corner piece here. This will be the only OEM bolt that is reused on this whole thing. Go ahead and get it in there. You can tighten it, or you can wait a little bit. It's not going to matter for what you're trying to do. Now, next piece I put in is I put in the bracket. Now, this looks like it could go either which way, and it can. But you want, key thing to remember is you want the stud here pointed towards the engine, so the flanges are out. Take the two short bolts supplied in the VMAC kit. Stick them in here. I do go ahead and snug these up a little bit. You don't have to over tighten them, just snug them up a little bit for now. Alright, this hole is left open on purpose, because when we put the bottle in, this bottle, the mounting hole goes here, but there's actually the negative ground cable goes through that hole as well, and I'll show you what I mean here in a second. So one of the things I like to do is go ahead and route your harness somewhere close. Take your bottle, sometimes you gotta be careful of the air condition line. I'm struggling a little bit today. Alright, once it's set in there, this piece right here, let's see if you can see that. This piece right here is actually what mounts in. You got a tapered side and a smooth side. The tapered side goes towards the battery cable. So it goes in just like this. Longer supplied bolt. Now, this longer bolt normally has to come right back off there as soon as you get the battery cables routed. I'll tell you right now, I messed up on routing these cables. Make sure those cables are underneath. You can go ahead and stick this center bolt in the bottle if you choose to. I don't. I wait till it's all done. Route this around. Alright, let's try this again. Usually, don't tighten them up that much, just leave them loose for a second. You're going to take this bolt here, and it actually mounts under here. Put it in from the firewall side. And that's your 10mm, and it'll actually thread in to the other side once you get it pushed through. Alright, once you get that on there, just check your air conditioning line. You just want to make sure it's not pushing against it, because you still got to get a hose on over here. I'll try to move the camera where you can see that. You can go ahead and just set your hot post on here. Let me see if I can show you the way it's set up currently. Alright. See how close this is? You can bend this by hand a little if you need to. Most likely it'll fit, that connector will fit on there, but we don't want it to rub. Here's the layout where the hot post is going to go. You can go ahead and tighten it up pretty much at any time. And here's the ground. We will be hooking this ground wire up here shortly as well. We've completed the install of the Degas bottle on the passenger side. We've also installed the air box, well, the bottom of the air box back in there. Reconnected the ground strap. To finish out this portion, what we do is we take the hose we put together. This end goes down between the air conditioning compressor and the frame rail. And what you're going to do is just kind of run it across the ground for now. But it's going to tie onto the transmission lines down there. Then you take this side. Like I said, you might have to maneuver some lines in and out of the way a little bit. Just pushed on. Okay, you have to bend these a little bit with your hands. It's not going to hurt it. You don't want to get too carried away with it by any means. Just rotate that up a little bit, take the pressure off of them. This side is connected. Now, you don't want it rubbing this. So when you get to the bottom, there's a metal transmission line that you're actually going to clamp everything to. So I wanted to show you what it meant by attaching the heater hose to the transmission line in the manual. So this is the drain back hose we just put in. If you can see it up here. And it runs down and it attaches. That's the first place. It goes across the bottom of the engine. You can tell that I added that extra wear sleeve in there. It's not actually rubbing anything, but I put it in there just in case the bouncing vibration. Then it goes up. And let me see if I can get to the top. It connects right there. That is the factory OEM clamp, so you will need to reuse that off the old hose. You do want to put this hose in before you start putting the main bracket in, because it gets substantially harder to do that once the brackets and everything go in. So thanks for watching this episode. With the next one, we're going to be modifying the fan stator and upper fan shroud.